Bodie, California is a genuine gold mining ghost town located east of the Sierra Nevada mountain range in Mono County, California. When mining began to decline along the western slope of the Sierra Nevada, prospectors began to cross the eastern slope in search of their fortunes. One such man, named William, aka Waterman, S. Bodie, discovered gold near a place that is now called Bodie Bluff in 1859. Alas, the poor man died in a snowstorm that very winter and never saw the new town that would be named after him. Though one legend attributes the change of spelling to an illiterate sign painter, the citizens deliberately changed the spelling in order to ensure correct pronunciation. In 1861, the Bunker Hill Mine was established as well as a mill, though the camp was called home to only about 20 miners. Bodie grew slowly and remained an insignificant mining camp for 17 years. The Bunker Hill Mine and Mill on the west slope of Bodie Bluff changed hands several times during the years, before being sold to four partners in 1877. The name was changed to the Standard Mining Company, and within months the partners discovered a significant vein of rich gold ore. Profits rose dramatically, and by the end of 1878, Bodie's population had soared to some 5,000 people. The Standard Mine would yield nearly $15 million in gold over the next 25 years. During the winter of 1878 to 1879, Bodie's citizens saw many hardships. Particularly savage, the winter claimed hundreds of lives from exposure and disease. Falling timber in the mines and explosion of powder magazines took additional lives. Miners, gamblers, and business continued to flood the area, and by 1879, Bodie boasted a population of about 10,000 and 2,000 buildings. Before long, the town supported some 30 gold mines, 65 saloons, numerous brothels, gambling halls, and opium dens, as well as a number of legitimate businesses, including 3 newspapers, several churches, a couple banks, and a school. Every other building on the mile-long Main Street was a saloon. 3 breweries worked day and night, while whiskey was brought into town in 100-gallon barrels. Like many booming mining camps, Bodie soon earned a reputation for violence and lawlessness. Killings were sometimes daily events, and robberies, stage holdups, and street fights were common occurrences in the camp. In its day, Bodie was more widely known for its lawlessness than its riches. Of Bodie, Reverend F.M. Warrington would describe it in 1881 as a sea of sin lashed by tempests of lust and passion. Given Bodie's reputation, it is perhaps not surprising that one little girl whose family was moving to the mining town reportedly prayed, "Goodbye, God, we're going to Bodie." Bodie needed milled wood for construction, mine shaft beams, and heating. However, there were few trees in the area. Soon several businessmen formed the Bodie and Benton Railroad in 1881 for the sole purpose of transporting lumber. Like other railroads in the West, the Bodie-Benton Railroad hired inexpensive Chinese labor, much to the outrage of local unemployed miners. By 1882, the 32-mile-long railroad was in service between Bodie and Mono Mills along the east shore of Mono Lake. Though the metal rails have long since been sold as scrap, you can still see the old railroad grade not far from the remote eastern shores of Mono Lake. Many immigrants and ex-miners homesteaded around Mono Lake in the hopes of making a simple living off the land. Early Mono Basin ranchers often had plentiful food and provided supplies to the local mining towns of Bodie and Lundy. The boom was over, and by 1882, Bodie started to decline. Its population had dropped to just 3,000 as several smaller mining companies went bankrupt, and people began to leave the area in search of better opportunities. Prior to 1882, there were no churches in Bodie. However, there were 2 preachers, Reverend Hinkle, a Methodist, and Father Casson, a Catholic. Services were held in private homes, and later in the Independent Order of Odd Fellows building and the Miners' Union Hall. Despite the decline of the mines, both the Methodist Church and Catholic Church were built in 1882. The Catholic Church would not survive the later fires of Bodie, but the Methodist Church still stands. The 2 major mines, the Bodie and the Standard, merged in 1887 and continued to operate successfully for the next 2 decades. While the boom lasted, some 30 companies produced $400,000 in ore per month, for an overall total estimated at $90 to $100 million. In 1892, a fire ravaged much of the business district, further depleting Bodie's population. Additional mines began to close. However, the very next year, Bodie became one of the first mining camps to use electricity. Another fire destroyed the mill in 1898. It was rebuilt the following year. By 1915, most of the important mines were controlled by James Stuart Kane, who had arrived in Bodie when he was just 25 years old. Soon after his arrival, he entered the lumber business, transporting timber on barges across Mono Lake. He would grow so successfully that he eventually would own the Bodie Bank, leased the Mono Lake Railroad and Lumber Company, formerly known as the Bodie and Benton Railroad, became the town's principal property owner and the owner of the Standard Mill. However, the Standard Mill was closed around 1916, and just a year later, the Bodie-Benton Railroad was abandoned. In 1932, another devastating fire caused by a 2.5-year-old boy playing with matches destroyed 95% of Bodie's buildings. Though Bodie was already dying, further decline resulted from Prohibition and the Great Depression. While some mining continued, there were no new strikes, and companies eked out only minor profits, largely by using the cyanide process to extract gold from old tailings. However, a few people continued to live in Bodie until after World War II, when the last producing mine, the Lucky Boy, was shut down. By then, only 6 people were left in the old settlement, and 5 of these would soon die untimely deaths. First, one of the men shot his wife, and after she died, 3 men killed the murdering husband. According to the legend, the ghost of the murdered man would visit the 3 men, shaking his fist. Soon, all 3 men would die of strange diseases. By the end of the 1940s, Bodie was a ghost town and was visited only by tourists interested in history. In 1962, after years of neglect, Bodie became a state historic park, and 2 years later, the ghost town of Bodie was dedicated as a California historic site. It has also been designated a National Historic Site. Legends about Bodie abound, including the Bodie Curse. Supposedly, if a visitor takes anything from the old ghost town, even a pebble, they will be cursed with bad luck. Misfortune and tragedy are heaped upon the victim until the stolen item is returned. According to park rangers, many who have taken things eventually return them to the park to rid themselves of this curse. Purportedly, the park maintains a logbook of pages upon pages of returned items. In the museum, you can see the letters from people who have returned items to the park. The curse is supposedly perpetuated by the ghosts of Bodie, who guard against thieves and protect its treasures. Other ghostly legends have seemingly occurred in this ghost town that is said to be truly a ghost town, remaining home to several restless spirits. The James Stuart Kane house at the corner of Green and Park Streets is said to be haunted by the ghost of a Chinese maid. Families of park rangers who have occupied the house describe the spirit as not liking adults, but loves children. Adults sleeping in the house have said that they will awake in the night to find a heavy-set Chinese woman sitting on them. Feeling suffocated, one woman fought so hard that she ended up on the floor. Others have reportedly seen the bedroom door opening and closing on its own. The Gregory house is said to be haunted by the ghost of an old woman. Guests and staff have reported seeing her in a rocking chair, knitting an afghan. At other times, the rocking chair has been seen rocking on its own accord. The Mendozzini house is called home to several ghosts. One is thought to be Mrs. Mendozzini, who loved to cook Italian food. Rangers report today that they often smell the delicious aroma of her cooking when they enter the house. Others have reported party-like sounds coming from the next room and the laughter of children. At the Deschambault house, visitors have seen a woman peering from the upstairs window. At the Bodie Cemetery is the Angel of Bodie, a 3-year-old child that is said to have been accidentally killed when she was hit in the head by a miner's pick. Her grave is mounted with a white marble angel, and on one occasion a man visiting the cemetery with his little girl noticed that she was giggling and seemed to be playing with an unseen entity. Today, Bodie is one of the largest and best preserved ghost towns in the West. Its over 200 buildings are maintained in a state of what is termed arrested decay, Many original items are displayed in these old buildings. When the people moved out after the fire in 1932, they packed what they could in their wagon or truck, and the rest they just left behind.